Hi everyone, this is our Mysore room conference, and today we're gonna talk about mindset for a lifelong practice. So we're gonna share our experience and our opinions regarding how to maintain a sustainable practice. Okay, so first let's talk about the importance of having a daily practice. Okay, we always motivate our students to come daily to the shal and to practice every day. Of course, not everyone can do that. So the more close you get to that, the more benefits you're going to get through this practice. And this can build up. You can start 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and then eventually and hopefully build it up for 6 times a week. Other thing is, having a daily practice doesn't mean that every day you give 100%, or every day you finish one sequence, or every day you finish the practice that you were taught to do. Sometimes, according to what happens in life, or regarding energy, or regarding time, you have to shorten up your practice. And if you practice for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45, it's also good. It's good enough. Okay, so importance of stepping on the mat as much as you can, but doesn't mean that every day is gonna be the same. Okay, this is not obligation. This is not military. We do what we can. Okay, but sometimes we have to know the difference between what is being tired or what is being lazy in that day. And for that you have us, hopefully. We create already a healthy relationship, and we've been watching you practicing every day. And I don't know if you know that, but by watching you practice, you end up to know a lot about you. And maybe by teaching you, you end up to know a lot about ourselves. So there's a relationship that has been created. And through that, sometimes we can read if a student is really maybe not so tired and is being a bit lazy and asks us to stop the practice earlier, and then we say, oh, maybe you can try to do a little bit more, maybe you can try to do the next posture, see how it goes, practice slowly, and then the student ends up to finish the practice. Other days is completely the opposite. Other days we really can see that the person is tired and is maybe struggling and pushing herself, and we say maybe today is better to stop and do finishing, rest, and tomorrow is another day. So I think that's a healthy approach to have towards a daily practice.
It's important, to not rush your practice. Of course, the practice on the mat is important to take your time, because after all, it's the time for yourself. It's me time. It's for a very self-peace moment. The 1 hour or 2 hours that you have on the mat is time for exploration, but also don't rush your yoga practice in the scale of your life. You're learning a tool, you're learning a lifelong tool for self-exploration, and during this time you are harnessing the techniques of yoga so that you can find who you are without the constant mind chatter. After all, this is a practice to reduce the fluctuations of the mind, so there is no end point. This is just a constant practice, so there should be no urgency. You don't need to want to get somewhere, or you shouldn't need to want to get somewhere. Then only when you have that, when you stop wanting that need to arrive somewhere, then only you have the space for this observation and this exploration to take place.
We always say that to see this practice and to see yoga as a tool for life. Okay, so we practice and we step on the mat every day with the intention of becoming a better human being. Very, very quite simple, and for sure you hear that a lot. But sometimes it's a bit difficult to understand. Okay, so basically see what we do in the mat, the postures that we do in the mat. There's no point in thinking that I have to be good doing that. Okay, like it's not a sport, it's not a competition. There's no such thing to be good at practicing the postures. Okay, so we practice the postures actually, and we do this practice to be good at everything that we do in our lives. To be good as a professional in our job, to be a better parent, to be a better friend, to be a better husband. So that's a healthy way to see this practice. Okay, so sometimes there's a mistake that we end up to follow in the mistake of managing all our life regarding our yoga practice. So everything is, I don't want to do this because then I cannot bind. I don't want to eat this. You should eat healthy, but sometimes it's good to relax. It's good to relax and just see yoga as a tool for your life, and don't see it the opposite. Okay, so that's very simple, and if you see it like that, then even sometimes you don't feel so guilty if you don't practice or if you didn't do the whole sequence. Okay, so try to see it like that, and hopefully it makes a difference.
You know, I was just saying this earlier today, actually. You see, in the cycle of life, death is inevitable, right? You will age. This is not a philosophy, this is a fact. So it is kind of also healthy to accept death of asana. Not practice, but asana. It is possible to work hard without being attached to the goal. This is yoga. This is actually the essential teachings of one of the most important texts about yoga, the Bhagavad Gita. The yoga happens when you are able to do without being attached to the fruits of your labor. Right? In this you can find presence. In this you can find a glimpse of meditation in action. And at some point we need to realize that our asana practice is lifelong, you know. But like life, it's impermanent, right? We will age. It will have to change a bit. You can't be doing at 90 perhaps what you were doing at 20 is not possible, and this is fact. So if you understand this earlier, the less suffering mentally and emotionally you will go through, the more acceptance you bring into your life. But it doesn't mean because we're going to die we cease to do all action now. We continue. Just because the asana will have to go at some point doesn't mean you stop doing it now. Instead, we should be maturing our views like aging gracefully, and we would age gracefully with the practice, the yoga practice, as well as the views on asana as we get older. And this should apply to our entire Ashtanga practice.
Yeah. So continue a little bit with that, picking up a little bit of that subject also, practicing, maintaining our practice during different situations in our life. Some of them very important, like for example, when a woman gets pregnant, okay, and all have existing practice already, and want to continue practice through the beautiful process of being pregnant, or is pregnant and wants to start practicing yoga. Both are completely possible, okay, but that have to be a change on the mindset regarding the practice, and there have to be a willing to adapt. So in that case it's possible to practice. Of course, in the first 3 months you shouldn't, but then after you can practice, but we have to adapt. We have to be able to adapt the postures according to what's happening in that moment. Okay, always regarding space when the belly starts growing, always regarding postures that you shouldn't practice at all. So we are able to change, and we are able also again to manage the energy. When we have students that are pregnant, sometimes get tired more easy, the increasing of the heat of the body, and we have to step back, and we cannot think that we can maintain what we were doing before. It will come eventually or not, doesn't matter, but it's time to adapt, and that makes you a more serious and a better yogi. Okay, another thing much more simple than that, when you go through an injury, okay, you are able to do everything that you thought, but in that particular moment you have to change, you have to adapt, you have to step back. And again, this is how we grow through the process of practice, and it's very important to be able to do it in a healthy way.
You know, sometimes even in yoga you hear this a lot, and sometimes in Ashtanga too. I was full power today. Or I was full power yesterday. Oh, she was full power. I saw you were the reality is, if you get attached to being full power, you may find it difficult to realize you cannot be 200% every day. So you can swing. If you're so excited and go all out in the beginning, there's going to be another side to that full power. Is going to be a massively low power, and then you're going to go down and be upset with your practice, and then the pendulum swings, right? I always think many times our relationship to asana is a little bit, for some, like our relationship to food. We eat a ton, then we feel bad, and then we go on a diet, and then we starve ourselves.
Then we go on detox.
And then we go, then we get hungry, and then we gorge, and then it's the same. You see these kind of habits in the practice, right? We feel good in the body, so we practice full power. We do a lot of asana, we go really hard on ourselves because we're full of energy that day. Then the next day, we're really sore. Can't do it. Don't show up. Don't practice for a couple of weeks, and then you come back and then you kill yourself again because you're rested for a couple of weeks or a couple of days or whatever. So this swinging is not what you're looking for, all right? Effective, both in nutrition and your asana, if the effectiveness comes from being consistent. There's the little changes that you bring into your daily life that you do daily that have the biggest changes, biggest effects on your life. But also, of course, you must be intuitive to your needs, right? Like Menno was just saying, you don't want to hurt yourself, nor do you want to just allow yourself to get extremely lazy. That doesn't work either. So you're always looking for that middle line, and that looking for that middle line in practice is that looking in the middle line in life. That's the spiritual path, right? The one where you don't swing. So don't bring that into the practice. Find a way that you can maintain a practice regularly, so therefore you will see times where you feel like you could have done more that day, but it's okay, you didn't. You're just watching it, observing that, and letting it go. Some days you felt that, it was too much, but you still get through to what you need to get through. Let it go. And then you can see how life goes up and down, because you would see the energy go up and down, and you can see all the instability, because you don't need your asana practice to be the source of instability in your life. There's plenty of sources of that already. Your yoga practice, your asana practice also, should be the source of stability from which you see and observe the fluctuations of everything else. You should be the source of that centeredness. And it starts with finding constantly, it's not something you can do overnight, but constantly working towards finding a consistent practice you can do daily. Regardless of events, whether you have an injury or pregnancy, there's still ways to work around that. Things will come up in life that will alter that. I think that's one thing I'm going to say.
Good.
And there's nothing wrong with going on a retreat.
That's okay.
I just got back from one for those who didn't know. Anyway.
So, as you know, every conference we want to answer a question from our students. So we have a new question, and I'm going to read to you. Can one still progress to the next pose if she can't do a pose due to injury or anatomical limitation?
Due to injury.
Sorry. I'm Portuguese. This is not my
he
first
always
language.
Says due.
Anyway. It's a very interesting question and not very easy to answer, but like always, we're going to try our best. Okay, so as some of you know, if not, Ashtanga Yoga has several sequences. Have the primary sequence and the second sequence, and then third sequence divided in 3. So we believe in 3 now, in 4. Sorry. We believe that primary series should be for everyone. Everyone should be able to one day in their lives practice primary series. Okay, with time, patience, and dedication, that will come. For some that have some anatomical limitations, that have to be some changes. We have to modify the postures, and this will take time, but in one day I think that will happen. But the more we move forward on the series, that means that maybe you are a little bit more physically capable, and if we are more physically capable, we can move a little bit forward, but gets a little bit also more serious because the practice becomes more intense. So unless we are able to do the postures with the correct breathing and an alignment that is safe for the body, there's no point on moving forward. Okay, we can practice primary series for all our lives and go very deep in this practice with a steady breathing and understanding what this practice is really about. So what's the need of moving forward? So regarding that, for primary series, yes, one can move forward again with time and patience. Regarding injury, a little bit the same. Okay, so if we have an injury, come to yoga already with the injury, let's say with a very severe injury on the knee regarding a sport or playing basketball or a surfing accident, we're going to be able to modify everything again regarding the primary series. Okay, more than that starts again to have no point on moving forward. Then there is another situation that you've been practicing for many years, and we did can be primary series, second series, and then you end up to get yourself with an injury. Hopefully not in yoga, but or in an accident or something like that. But you were able to do it before. You have a knowledge through the practice. Your body already went through the process of this intense method. In that case, you're going to be able to modify and maintain your practice because you did it before. Okay, so yes, you also can move forward. But now Jan is going to talk about in another point of view, the same question, but a little bit more wide, make a wide perspective regarding this subject.
I think firstly, there are many reasons why you are kept in a posture in this practice. To be honest, the reason that is irrelevant to the student if you are able to surrender to the practice and the teacher in the room, which by the way, being able to surrender is one of the niyamas. But anyway, I digress. The sequence is structured in a progressive manner that requires a physical ability from earlier postures to you in order to safely move on, right? That's one of the more important things. And one of the reasons we have a teacher to overlook and guide us through this practice, when is the right time, when to go back, when to go forward, it's also because it's very hard to see yourself, you know, especially more difficult to differentiate when your own thoughts might be tempered by your ego. So you don't really know whether it's your just ego wanting to act or not really you are ready. So it's always better to have someone that's been watching you practice for a long time. I always say this in the room or to Mano. The interesting thing as a teacher in the Mysore is in the giving or not giving or whatever is happening in the room or advice that's being given to a student, we have zero benefit from it. So it's a pure giving. So we are able to watch and see when you're ready so that you are safely able to move on. But once you have demonstrated this ability, then your teacher will notify you. But this ability not necessarily, or the lesson learned is not necessarily only a physical ability that needs to be acquired. Sometimes a lesson learned needs to be patience. Sometimes you can see people who are already rushing practice, like we were talking about earlier, or very impatient in nature. And then it's good to learn patience. And you're learning patience by being forced to stay where you are and practice and look at yourself in your practice every day without moving forward, without chasing other things like we were saying before. So sometimes that lesson is, sometimes that lesson is just patience. So that thing that needs to be learned at that time is patience. And on another note, if you understand the larger purpose of practice, the bigger picture of asana, which we spoke pretty much this whole conference, is there's no such thing as stuck. There's only an enjoyment of what's happening every day on the mat, and you are just doing that self-exploration, that study of yourself and what's going on, or what you've been given up until during your yoga practice. So the study, as I said before, it happens to be endless. And if you are so unfortunate that we decide you need to have more to study, that you need to struggle more, then we will give you more to study and more asana to struggle with on the mat. But until then, enjoy your current struggle. There's so much to discover in the practice. There's nowhere to really go, because if you get one, there's another. If you finish a sequence, there's another sequence. It's really, it doesn't end.
There's no end.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a way to trick you to get on the mat. So might as well, if you can learn it earlier, go, aha, really, it's kind of a trick. So I might as well just stop wanting that chase or seeking that chase and just come back to what you have and enjoy what you have. That, again, another part of your yama niyama is contentment. That's another place that you can integrate contentment into your yoga practice. And, you know, I'm like maybe 15 years since I started this practice, and until today I still play and find fun in exploring simple things, like from a chaturanga to a down dog to very, very simple movements that I still explore my body through subtly. And for example, you hear, I always like to give a non-yogic comparison, so we snap out of this frame of mind, but sometimes we feel stuck in the house. Like now it's raining outside, you know, you feel stuck in the house. So what do you do when you feel stuck? You can't go anywhere. You look for something to do in the house, right? Whether it's your Netflix or a book or your dog or cook, you look for something to do in your house. So if the illusion of you being stuck in your practice, find different ways to explore your practice. That will make you unstuck. It's like a frame of mind. It's coming back to different ways of looking at something you've been doing all the time. There's so much to explore. It is only like our ego's need to always want more, chase more, seek outside. And this is like a lot of the cause of our unhappiness that we create. That's why they always say, no, happiness is a state of mind, it's a choice. Because we also, it works the other way, we also create our own suffering and unhappiness. And one of the ways is, yes, through comparison or through wanting or constantly seeking more and never looking at really what you have. So the yoga happens when you start to bring acceptance into the practice. But that's all I have to say.
Very complete. So that's our conference for today. We did some updates on our website. You can go and check also regarding explaining this practice for beginners at Mysore room. We also update our retreat for March 2020. So you can see all the information on the website or on the Facebook event page. And as you know, we are open for bookings via email. So go and check it. And I see you guys next month or tomorrow in the class.
Bye guys. You're gonna have me all summer. Bye.